Hello, everyone. My name is Ken Hearn, and I'm going to be going through some of the exercises that you may see in this upcoming activity challenge. First thing we're going to talk about is going to be the squat. With each exercise that we review here, we're going to talk a little bit about form, a little bit about modification, and some progressions that you could use. When we talk about the squat, the biggest thing that we look at first is our form. So we always start with the chair if you've never done squats before. This will help us try to build out that form. I encourage you to come to the edge of the chair, 90 degrees at the knees, I apologize, and feet are directly below the knees. Hands can go straight out like this. We want to avoid this because this is going to help us not engage our abdominals because we're going to push off the arms instead. So this will help us engage our abdominals. We want to tighten that belly, and all we're going to do is push from the heels and sit ourselves up. We're going to come back to the chair and back down. Now, when we do the chair squats, we're just tapping the backside down and coming back up. Some of you will roll into it and then come back through. We want to try to avoid that rolling because that will just cause us to not use the abdominals as much, just the legs when we're rolling back, setting that weight bearing and then coming back up. Once you've mastered that and once you feel comfortable just tapping the backside down, then you would remove the chair and then our squats would be here. So it's almost like we're trying to touch the backside still to the chair, but we're just upright. We don't have that chair balance. Another thing to look at as well is the flat back, right? Back is flat, coming straight through. Next thing we could do after that is adding weight. 3 different versions of adding weight we'll talk about. High carry, goblet, and a low carry. High carry, dumbbells will be up here. You'll go down and up. Goblet, dumbbell, dumbbell will be at the chest. Down, up. Side carry, at the side, down, up. One thing you'll notice, I never changed my form, just my arm position. Always stay nice and tall, always going down flat, always coming up. When we say go down flat, that means your back is flat. We don't do this and roll it over. The back stays nice and straight, nice and flat. Abdominals are tucked, glutes are engaged. That's how we're looking for that perfect squat. One progression that we'll talk about with the squat that you can do on top of the dumbbells would be adding an explosiveness feature or a plyo feature to it, which would be a squat jump or a squat burst. All right, so this is just up off the toes, off the heels, I apologize, on your toes, just giving a little bit more into that squat. That's the squat. Good luck with that squat. Make sure we're knees staying behind the toes. Back is flat, eyes are forward. You're going to do great. Excellent. Let's move on to our next exercise. Our next exercise is going to be the plank. I want to do the plank before we talk about the push-up because the plank is a very, very important part of the push-up. There's 2 different versions of a plank. There is a forearm prone plank and there is a full body prone plank. So the forearm prone plank is the thing we'll talk about first. You're going to start on both elbows and you want the eyes to be staring right at the fist, all right? Or hands, however you end up doing it. I like to put fists together. Some folks like to put their flat hand. But we shouldn't be staring down here between our elbows because this means you can see we're shifted back. We should be shifted forward. Now, from there, you can see I'm still on my knees here. This is a form of a plank you can do. You straighten the body and you're off the knees. This would be a knee prone elbow plank. Then the next level would just be a prone elbow plank off the toes. I lift the knees off the ground now and I come from here. All right. Now, one of the things we want to talk about with the plank is a belly to spine engagement. Belly to spine means we're taking our belly button and we're pulling it through our spine. Think about like a string being attached to the back of the belly button and pulling through. We're tightening that belly to our spine. This is going to allow us to use our transverse abdominis and not our erector spinae or our back muscles. Because if we pull and tighten, we hold our body up with our abdominals. If we just try to hold and we don't engage those abdominals, our back is holding us up from the backside. And that's where we get a lot of back pain and a lot of discomfort when we're doing those planks incorrectly. And that could look like this, basically, when you see that dip. You see that dip in the back, and that means my back's doing the work. So I want to be up. And there's a little bit of a peak. I don't want you to think that you have to be straight as a board when you're planking. That is the goal. However, when you're first starting to plank, put a little bit of a peak in there. If you feel your shoulders, your abdominals, and your glutes, you are doing a great job planking. That is what we're trying to feel. Let's talk about the last plank that I mentioned, which is the standard high plank, if you will, or on the hand plank, push-up plank. A lot of different names for it, but this is going to be in a push-up position. The abdominals are tucked. You can see I'm nice and flat, and I'm holding right here. The chest is over the hands at this point. Eyes are looking in front of the fingers, and I'm holding this position still. I could open this plank up a little wider. I could do a single leg plank, which would put a little bit more emphasis on the quad and a little bit more on the abdominal side to side. That kind of transverse comes across, so we could work a little side to side on those abdominals. With the plank, it's very key to not be dipped. And it's very key to not be too high of a peak. As I said before, you can have a small peak, but we don't want an A peak and we don't want a U, right? Those are the two things that we don't want. So I'll show you those now. So this would be the high peak, right? My eyes aren't even looking close to my hands. They're way out in front. This is putting pressure on all my shoulders and wrists, pressure I don't need. If I'm like this, now I have a good plank setting. I'm nice and straight, but if I start to get tired and drop like this, now all that pressure is going to my lower back. If you feel you're starting to drop like that, then we're done with the plank. We drop, we reset, we tighten that belly to spine, and do it again. Wrist issues. Some folks have wrist issues. You can use the push-up block. You can go from the fist. And if you're going from the fist, I just want to show it from this angle. If you're going from the fist, you have to stay like this. You can't go from the fist and then drop this way or bend in or even out the side. You have to stay straight wrist so that when I go up, my wrists are not bending. I'm staying on the fist. This isn't always the most comfortable. I recommend if you're doing it with the fist, maybe put down an extra mat, maybe put down a pillow, something like that that will keep it, but not a thick pillow. It has to be something. It just gives it a little bit of padding. Maybe a nice soft towel, something to that effect. But that's what we're looking at from the plank. Now, this is why we wanted to talk about the plank before, because the plank is the first part of a good push-up. If we have that belly to spine, if we have that glute squeeze, then we can do a good push-up. And the push-up is just a continuation of the plank. The only difference is the hands set out a little wider, and I like to bring my hands slightly in. You don't have to, but I like to bring them slightly in. It's a little bit more protection on the shoulder. Then we're going to plank in that plank position, and all we do from there is take a 2,000 count down, 1,000, 1,002, 1,000, 1,002, 2,000 count up. If we are doing a good plank and a good push-up, we will work all the foundational push-up muscles. A lot of the push-up comes from the core, so we have to be a good plank in order to do a good push-up. Now, the modification for that would be the knees, right? We come to the knees. The knees are right here. We're still doing the plank. We're still doing that same plank we were doing, tightening the tummy from the knees, because we still want to work the abdominals. If I do a push-up like this, I'm just doing shoulders and a little bit of arms. I'm not getting any chest and I'm not getting any abdominals. I have to shift the body forward. I have to have my chest over the hands. I have to go down and up. That would be that knee push-up. Another modification that we could use is a bench or a chair. The only thing that the chair does is it slightly reduces our ability to come out and do a wider push-up. So it's going to get a little bit more tricep. We call a close grip push-up, because the chair may not have the width that we're looking for. So you can grab it on the outside like this. You can do that. That's okay. Or you can put the hands flat. The chair grabbing on the outside allows the wrist to be less at risk, if you will. All right. So we can go here and then same thing. Good plank position. You see I'm straight. I'm not out here. I'm not dipping. Nice and straight. Down back up is what we are looking for. Same procedure that we would do on the ground. We're just a little more elevated. It takes a little bit of the pressure off of our body. And the last version of that modification would be the wall push-up. So with the wall push-up, I'm standing off a little bit behind. I want to make sure my hands are chest level. So this right here is shoulder level. If they go straight out, they're shoulder level. So I want them to be dipping down just a little bit. Then what I'm going to do, feet can be flat or they can be up on the toes. I prefer up on the toes. It allows me a little bit more resistance. But flat, it's going to be a little bit less resistance, but the idea is the nose comes to the wall and come back. The nose should never come between the hands. That means we're too high. So the nose comes just above the hands and then back out. That would be our good, consistent wall push-up. With the wall push-up, make sure we're still engaging those abdominals. That is the key to the push-up and the plank. We have to be engaging those abdominals. Something that you can work on is sitting in a chair or lying on your back, trying to pull your belly to spine, locking in the belly, and then take 5 big, deep breaths while still feeling that engagement. Because if I just go, and then I don't breathe, I'm using my diaphragm. I'm not using my transverse abdominis. So one of the good things that we can do is belly to spine, squeeze the glutes, and still talk or still breathe, because now I'm using my abdominals. I'm not using my diaphragm. That's the big difference that we have with that. Excellent. So next up on the list here is going to be the sit-up or crunch. I'm going to show you both differences with the sit-up and the crunch, because they are different exercises. With a sit-up is when we are trying to raise the entire upper body into the knees, if you will. We are trying to lift the back off the mat. All right, so a sit-up would be hands either behind the head, or I could even have what we call a slide sit-up. And we are trying to come all the way up and all the way down. My lower back comes completely off of the mat. These work really well when we weight down the feet, right? Because if we don't, the feet want to come off. So if we can weight down the feet with weights or somebody kneeling on them, that would help us come all the way up into that sit-up. That's our proper sit-up. When we talk about a crunch, the difference is my lower back with a crunch stays on the mat, and I try to go chin to the ceiling. Before, with a sit-up, I'm trying to bring my head to my knee level, right? I'm trying to bring it this way. With a crunch, I'm trying to go straight up, back down. Upper back leaves the floor, lower back presses into the floor on that crunch. So chin to ceiling is a good way to think of it. I like to point the arms straight up. Some folks may get a little sore in the arms, so maybe try to just do one hand behind the neck. If you're worried about the neck, you can put the hands behind the ears, or you can support the neck. But the biggest thing I see with the neck support is when we just yank on the neck. Remember, the chin has to go to the ceiling. We don't want our chin to go to our chest. That would mean that we're just rolling our neck instead of actually using some abdominals. Now, will you get some abdominal feel when you're rolling your neck? Sure. But you're putting more damage on the neck than you're actually doing good in the abdominals. So for that crunch, and remember with the crunch, I have my feet flat. You can do a crunch from here. You can do a crunch with one leg. You can even do what we call a moving crunch. So bringing the legs in and out, or a full body crunch, different things like that. But really know the difference between that sit up and that crunch, because they do have different aspects to them. All right. So that would be the sit up or the crunch, always making sure we're tightening that belly to spine. You're hearing it a lot. Belly to spine is very important when we're doing sit-ups, crunches, any type of abdominal work, really when we're doing any type of work in general, because the belly to spine is so good for us. It's such a foundational movement that every time you cough, every time you go to move, your transverse abdominis activates and it's ready. But we want to try to get that to activate for everything we do after that first movement. That will protect us. If we're doing a bicep curl, if we're doing a tricep press, we're locked into this core. That way it can't pull us either way. Sitting at your chair, right? You're sitting at your chair working. If you're not doing belly to spine, you're rolled. Belly to spine pulls us up. It gets that posture right. That's what we're looking at. Okay, so let's talk about dips next. Tricep dips. You can use a chair. You can use a bench. You can even use the ground, but I would prefer not to use the ground. We can get in a lot of trouble with the shoulders. I'll show you why in just a second. First one we'll show you is going to be the standard bench. This is where you can use a couch, you can use a coffee table. Again, something that's strong enough to support your body weight, something that's strong enough to support you as you move, something that doesn't move itself. So if you're using a couch, for instance, make sure that couch is planted on the ground, make sure it's maybe against a wall or not going to move easily. Hands are at the side of the hips. There's two different ways. We can do a bent knee tricep dip, and that is this way, where the knees are bent. Now you'll notice I'm not going this way. It's straight up, straight down. That's what we're looking for. The other version is straight leg. And this is going to put more pressure on the triceps because when you straighten the leg out, you're taking away that balance point or that base support of the feet helping you push up. Now you have more gravity, more body weight holding you or pushing back at you as you're trying to push those triceps up. So that's our best version of a tricep dip, is using a bench, solid object. I usually like to go knee high with the tricep press because I feel like that's a good, so something that's knee high is usually going to give you full range of motion at the tricep dip. So for instance, this chair is right about perfect for that good tricep dip. Now with this one, again, my width is a little bit different. So I would normally want them to be on both sides of the hips. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to step out and I'm going to put them as wide as I can. But now I'm going to have my feet, and now I can get full range of motion on that tricep dip. I'm at the farthest width I can. And again, same thing. I can go straight arm or straight leg and do the same thing on that tricep dip. When we talk about the tricep dip from the ground, it's a little bit different. We don't want to get in trouble with the shoulders. So if you get to the ground and try to do a tricep dip, you would kick the hands out to the side and you would try to go slight angle. But you can see I don't have as much distance in that tricep dip, and we end up trying to go forward, getting more shoulders. So I'd like you to try to find that elevated surface for that tricep dip. I think that'll be a lot more safe for you. Okay. Let's talk about the lunge. The lunge is an exercise that is meant to work the quads and hamstrings together, because when we go down, we get the quad on the planted leg, and then we get the hamstrings pushing back. So the idea of the lunge is we step out and we go 90-90. 90 degrees here, 90 there. One of the things we want to work on is our distance of the lunge. Sometimes we get too close of a lunge and we end up knees forward. That's bad on the knees. Sometimes we're too far of a lunge and we end up not even really lunging. We're more hurdling. So we want to find that perfect distance. I find that a mat is a really good distance meter. Good distance measurement, I should say. When I step from the back of the mat and then I just put my heel on the back of the mat, I find this is a really good distance that I should be lunging. So from that side view, I'm stepping here, dropping down. See how I'm 90 degrees here? I'm a little over 90, so that's telling me I'm too close. So step a little further. Now I'm 90. That's where I find my good lunge presence. Now, lunges aren't for everybody. If you have any knee issues, you're not going to like the lunge. Here's some modifications. One thing I like to do is we call a knee tuck. We step back, slight bend in the knee, shouldn't be enough to hurt it, and then tuck. Step back, tuck. The power knee tuck. Here, instead of a lunge, that would be my lunge. Right there. Another thing you can do, if you have a chair, stable chair, couch, something like that, you're just going to step back and put it up on that chair. Step back, put it up on the top of that object. Step back, put it up on the top. That's going to be our lunge sequence. With the lunge, stay straight in the back. A lot of times we have a tendency to do this on a lunge, leaning over. Stay tall, stay back, because you want your weight shift to be in your hips, not in the front knee. If your weight shifts to the front knee, you're putting a lot of pressure on that knee. You're leaving it out there to dry, hanging out there to dry, right? So you're coming like this. You're putting all that pressure on that knee and balance. You can see, throws me off balance. But if I'm back here, my balance is good. My knees at a safe place. My hips, my glutes, the quads, all get the work they deserve. All right, so I think we've got one more that we want to review here today, which is going to be, we've done sit-up squats. Just making sure I've got all the exercises covered. Very, very good. Actually, oh, mountain climber. That was the last thing I was going to go through. Two different versions of the mountain climber. There is the upright mountain climber. If you don't want to get down on the wrist, don't want to do a lot of running in place. Upright mountain climber. Hands are here. Boom, boom. Almost like we're climbing the mountain, right? That would be your upright mountain climber. Opposite hand, opposite knee. Or we can do a modified mountain climber off a chair or elevated surface. Where are we going back to? High push-up or plank position. We bring the foot in, and then we switch. That's a slow mountain climber. Fast mountain climber is just switch them quick. Boom, boom. And then we have the running mountain climber, which is not bringing the knee all the way in. We're just running at a fast pace. But you'll notice in all of those, my hands and chest never move, right? Hands and chest are fine. Or for this, right? They'll shake a little bit because whole body's moving, or here, but they're not moving in the sense of I'm not bending at the elbows, I'm not bending at the shoulders. That's what we're looking for. And then the final version of that mountain climber would be your full body mountain climber, which would be from the ground, push-up position, as we talked about, right? Push-up position, again, slow mountain climber, switching mountain climber, and then running mountain climber. Pick the mountain climber that works best for you, because that's going to be the one that you're going to be the most successful at. If you have any other questions during this activity challenge, any other exercises that you don't quite understand or you're not aware of, please feel free to reach out to one of your coaches through your fitness portal. And hey, get out there, do some activity, and have some fun. Thanks so much for joining me for this little review. I hope you have a good time trying all these activities throughout the month. We'll see you in the next challenge. Thanks, everyone.